Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 161 of Manage the Wild. I'm Nick Madsen. Today, just got back from a hike with my family, and we headed up to an area that was used as a sawmill in the 1800s, and it was discontinued, and now it's gone back to national forest. And while we were walking along the trail, it was absolutely gorgeous, but we were able to follow this trail that went along a stream, and there has been extensive beaver work up this entire length. Like every 50 yards or so, it felt like there was beaver streams. Not beaver streams, beaver ponds. And so it was interesting to see how each one, the different vegetation, the different things they would go after. The question that I had that got asked by somebody in my family was, what do beavers eat? And in fact, I just told them that, there are different trees and whatnot, but that's not the case. After doing a little research, beavers eat about anything as long as it's plant material. They are not too picky. They are known to eat poisonous plants that are poisonous to both humans as well as elk and deer and cattle and sheep. They don't care. They eat it all. In the wintertime, especially when the vegetation is low, they will eat bark, and they have no problem doing so. A lot of their food comes from when they are in the water. They are eating whatever is growing up from the bottom. And then when moss in the late summer, when moss and those different types of things start to grow on top of the water, they will start to eat that as well. But they also have no problem going onto land and grazing, eating grasses, shrubs, and forbs. They have no problem. They will do whatever. There is not a tree too big or too small. They will go on. They will go after it. Oftentimes, depending on how their growth of their teeth is going, they will continue to chew, and whether they want to or not, whether they're hungry or not, they'll continue to chew just to keep their teeth from getting too long, because their teeth will continue to grow no matter what. And so by chewing and gnawing on trees and different things, it'll keep those teeth sharp and small. But as soon as they stop, they're going to continue to grow and create problems. And so if they're not hungry and they're not chewing for food, then they're going to be doing it for building their dams. And so they're constantly working on something, whether it's for food or for building. And so they are just absolutely staying busy. Now, their metabolism is not that great. It's a slower rate than the majority of animals their size. One of the interesting things about beavers is they have a very slow respiration rate, which is one of the reasons why their metabolism is so low. But the other thing that the respiration rate is beneficial for is when they go underwater, they are allowed to stay, or they are able to stay under there for a very long time. The other thing that is beneficial for them is they have a very large liver and very large lungs. Both of those are allowing them to be able to store more oxygenated blood. And their lungs are more efficient at pulling oxygen than a human's exchange rate. So for a beaver, their lungs are capable of oxygen to carbon dioxide exchange rate of 75%. And a human's capacity and ability, their efficiency is 25%. Under normal conditions, just like general pond or whatnot, those type of conditions, a beaver can swim for a quarter of a mile under the water without coming up for air. If there is a predator chasing it and it's in a small pond and it has no choice but to just go and sit on the bottom, then they can stay down there for up to 15 minutes. That's just bonkers. The other thing I wondered about is what the heck's up with the tail? Like, what do they use the tail for? And after doing a bit of reading, there is a lot going on with the tail. researchers were doing some research back in the 60s and 70s, and they wanted to figure out a way. They hadn't come up with a tagging system, and so they came up with a brand, and they would brand the tails, a burning brand. They would brand the tails, and they largely felt no pain, or when they branded the beavers, they didn't react super negatively. So researchers don't believe that they had a whole lot of nerves or feeling in their tails, and they shed their scales and they would grow it back. They call it a shedding or a sloughing away of the scaly surface. And so they quit branding because they would shed or slough it off anyways. But there are a number of different ways that they use their tail. One is a prop. When they're standing up, looking around, they're using it to balance. When they're climbing up to start chewing on trees and gnawing on trees, they're using it as a way to prop themselves up. Another interesting that researchers has observed is the beaver will tuck its tail between its legs and put mud and sticks on it, and then use that to drag it to an area of the dam that it is working on to help take that mud and cake it into the dam. But it needed a way to carry it over, and obviously it can't use its hands, so it would use its tail as almost like a serving tray. The other thing that beavers use their tail for is similar to the way whales do. They go up and down movements. They'll use it as a warning sign. They'll slap the water really loud when there is danger. But then when they are underwater, they can use it to move around like a big rudder or an oar. And so there's just so many things about beavers that are super interesting, that are super fascinating. And just being able to see how they engineer the valley around them as we walked through it today was just so interesting to see the blowouts in the spring that have happened where beaver dams have been washed out and new beaver dams are being put in, and just the engineering and the way they go about doing these things. It's so amazing. And it was just an awesome opportunity to be able to be there with my family and see the different things that were going on as we move through these different seasons. You have a crazy winter, crazy spring, and moving into summer, and how they are going on, dealing with these hardships, and just moving on as if nothing happened. All right, you guys, have a great day. Stay wild.